Born in Los Angeles, California, and there's a lot of different cities, of course, inside, which makes up Los Angeles. Grew up in Highland Park, the Whittier area where I went to elementary school, and then also South Pasadena, Eagle Rock, and grew up there with my sister, Nikki, who still remains out in California, which, matter of fact, I just went out and visited her not too long ago. And then it was a little bit later on in junior high school, entering high school, that we actually moved back to Arkansas. When summer rolled around, I would go to my grandparents, Nick and Carmela Frigo, who lived up around the Santa Cruz area. My sister, and the rest of my family were really born up in the San Francisco area. I was born in Los Angeles, though, the only one. And that's where I spent my summers, in a little beach town called Capitola. And basically, in California, you would get out in June and go back to school in September. And so during that time, spent my summers on the beach, on the piers, fishing, and just hanging out with the grandparents. I haven't been back to Los Angeles in a long time, and don't really care to. Of course, it was pretty wild when I was young, you know, some 50 years ago or 40 years ago. But it was kind of heartbreaking to go up to the Capitola area again, because I returned to where my grandparents had their home, and it was like the Joni Mitchell song. You know, it was a parking lot. My grandparents' home was a parking lot. And I remember the last time I went out on that pier, sat down out there and had a cup of coffee and just broke down crying, because all the emotions, all the past, my grandparents, my summer, my childhood just started flooding back. And basically, I just lost it. You know, I broke down crying. It was just very emotional.
Paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot.
I thought about growing up. I wanted to be a jockey, but that rode thoroughbreds, racehorses. And I always wanted to do that. And I used to ride my bike when I lived in South Pasadena down to Santa Anita, which was the racetrack out there, very world famous, where Bill Shoemaker rode and Lafitte Pincay and all those great racehorse jockeys. I would ride down there and go watch the morning workouts. So that's what I really wanted to do for a long time. But I knew I wanted to do something unusual, because I was kind of a class clown in that either did two things for you. And either the teacher either loved me or my teacher hated me. And it went that way. Boy, I'd wind up either in the principal's office, or I'd get through flying colors if the teacher liked me. Some thought I was the most wonderful thing in the world, thought I was funny, just a comedian, to where other teachers just did not like it. As far as growing up, we used to, I think I must have been one of the first lip syncers, lip syncing, because I remember that me and my friends used to have concerts. And what we used to do, we would make guitars out of wood, and we'd put on either the Beatles or the Beach Boys, and we would lip sync to their music and charge kids like 10 cents, a nickel, 10 cents on the block to come and watch us perform. So, we'd dress like the Beach Boys or like surfers. So getting back to what I was going to be, I knew just a regular 9-to-5 job. I was going to be bored doing it. So back in probably the late 60s, my parents decided we were going to leave Los Angeles, California. They were looking at some property up around Missouri. Don't ask me why. We didn't have any family there, no relatives, no friends or anything. My father, I don't know if he was running from the law or what, but he was going to get out of California. So we did not get the home we were originally looking for up in Missouri. So what happened was we migrated down into Arkansas on the Buffalo River. So I went from Los Angeles, California, however million it was, to Gilbert, Arkansas, population 56, growing up on the Buffalo River. Talk about a culture shock. In the middle of nowhere, it was just like, oh, I can't even explain it. But after spending a few years down there, we moved around Greers Ferry Lake and spent a lot of time around Greers Ferry Lake around Clinton. Well, I had heard that there was a radio station being built in that area. So I found out where the gentleman who was building the station lived, and he lived in a trailer. I knocked on his door one day. He opened the door and says, yes, and I said, hello, I'm Jim Frigo, and it was Sid King. Sid King, who owns a lot of radio stations, well known in the community, owns movie theaters, and his daughter, even now, she's in radio, works at the Point in Little Rock, and so I was just pretty close with the King family. And I said, if you give me the opportunity, I know I could do this. I wanted to be on the radio. It hit me one other time. But let me back up. One other time I had gone to a radio station with a buddy of mine earlier in school in my life, said, hey, come with me. And he was on the basketball team. So he brought the basketball schedule to a radio station, which they would read the schedule over the air. You know, as one little thing as a public service, I think the radio station did. When I went in there, just watching the music, watching them play the record, watching them, the equipment, talking, just fascinated me. It was like a huge mystery. And it was just, I knew I wanted to do that. Well, when I talked to Sid about it, it was that time he said, well, you're going to have to first get your radio license, third class license with a broadcasting endorsement. So basically you had to study, go to Little Rock, take a test with the FCC, get your license before you could even go on the air, which I did. And then my first radio job was, I was actually working a job in a factory, and I had the opportunity to work on Saturday nights. They needed somebody to work on Saturday night. So every Saturday night, you know, when I finished my job during the week, I would go and do that shift. It was, I think it was from 4 or 5 to 10 o'clock at night, because the station signed off at 10 o'clock at night. And that was my first radio job. You know, it seemed like everywhere I worked, I wound up in the mornings. It seemed like eventually I would. But I did work, my first job when I went to K-Fine, I worked from, I think it was 2 to 6 in the afternoon, I believe it was. And yeah, and then eventually I moved to mornings. I was there with Mark Ford, the F Troop, Frigo and Ford. Mark and I worked there for a long time together. And then Mark later left, and I had other morning show partners. I enjoyed it, but as time went by, I did have the big numbers, but it got to where I was not having any fun. It didn't seem like radio as it should be, because, you know, with radio, obviously it's a business. Obviously you make money in it, but still I felt it should be fun. I should have a good time. Well, I was not happy. And I heard through the grapevine or some friends that, hey, maybe they might have an opening over at Presley Partnership at the time, or a new station they just launched called The Fox, which was a country radio station. The morning show partner at that time, Brian Osborne, was leaving. He decided he was going to get into law enforcement. So I had the opportunity to interview with Trey Stafford and Bill Presley. It was done in secret. It was really crazy. I lived off Bridger Road on Lynette, and Trey actually lived across the ditch with his backyard meeting my backyard, but we never talked because we were competitors. Well, I stuck over there one night, had the opportunity to spend some time with Bill and Trey, and it just seemed like these guys wanted to have a good time. They had some ideas that were big, and it was a challenge. At that time, K-Fine had such huge shares to where the Fox was just launching, getting off the ground, that it would be pretty hard to ever, well, it was just nobody was going to take K-Fine. Nobody was going to defeat K-Fine. The numbers were just too huge. It was a legend. It was a powerhouse. It was untouchable. So I thought at that time, well, if we could get together and I could just get a 10 share, double digits, because at the time they only had a 4 share at the Fox to K-Fine's 29, 30. So I went, we were just had a ball. I had so much fun in the morning, and just every book just started creeping slowly. And then I remember that one day that I got the call saying, hey, we beat K-Fine. And it was just remarkable. Probably one of the, besides raising kids and getting married and everything and having a family, probably one of the greatest things I ever accomplished. Got on radio in 1977, so do the math, 30-something years, And how long more will I do it? I turned 60 this year in 2014, but I guess I could do it as long as I want to. It's very low maintenance, as far as lifting, as long as they could roll me behind the mic in a wheelchair, unless I have a stroke or something like that. I think I could probably do it. Maybe 5 or 6 years. If I make it to 65, I might call it quits. So I might give it 5 more years and then look at it from there. But I've been very blessed because I was not good in school. I did not like school. And I guess the Lord just found a place for me, and that was radio, and just kind of moved me along. And considering not really going after higher education, I've been very lucky, very blessed. I mean very blessed that I found radio, and it's been a success for me. I'm very blessed to be working with the people I do, and that's the truth. Of course, when you work real close with people, you have spats from time to time, but I really do love the people I work with. I thoroughly enjoy working with Trey Stafford during the mornings with him, and really the Jonesboro Radio Group, all the way down to the sales department. I can really truly say we're family. Now, I know you hear that a lot. People say, oh, we're family, blowing smoke, but I really feel these people in my life are family, especially now that my kids have grown up, both living in Nashville, and I'm here. So, as far as that goes, my friends and the Jonesboro Radio Group is my family.